1, 2020. Welcome to our streaming council meeting, and thank you for joining us. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Shute?
Here.
Sorry, you should have been asked. I apologize. Mr. Fitzgerald?
Here.
Mrs. Dinello?
Here.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Here.
Mr. Augustine?
Here.
Mr. Fodor?
Present.
Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Dinello?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes. Tonight's invocation will be given by Tom Fitzgerald, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Lord of life and history, your servants come before you seeking your counsel upon the matters which we will consider during our meeting. May we speak and act not for the benefit of small interest groups within our community, but for the benefit of all our citizens. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from May 18th, 2020.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Dinello?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes. So for public comment, we did have some garage sale comments that had come to us, but since we did not have our work session, we're going to hold those comments over either until the next meeting or until we untable those public comments, and there are no other comments to be read tonight. Committee reports, BZA.
Board of Zoning Appeals. The Board of Zoning Appeals met on April 23rd.
Mr. Fodor, can you please mute your microphone? Mr. Fodor, can you please mute your microphone? Thank you.
So BZA.
The Board of Zoning Appeals met on April 23rd, and there was no meeting in May. Give you a brief update of what happened on the 23rd. There were two items presented. One, Burgess and Nyepel requested a variance to section 11-1905B2A of the Painesville Unified Development Code for a fence variance, a variance for the height of the fence. The proposed fence, or the fence that they had requested, was 9 feet tall, and they were requesting a variance of 3 feet. This is a fence that is going in specifically, for the judges. It will be a very nice decorative fence, and they requested a variance of 3 feet, as I stated. The motion was approved they made a motion to approve the variance, and it was approved with the following conditions: that they work with the United Methodist Church in good faith to build a sidewalk on the property, on the church property that is adjacent to the fence location, that they provide weekend parking access, which they've already agreed to do, that they ensure the police department has appropriate access to the parking lot because it will be gated, and that such structure, or they should construct the parking lot so that the drainage issue identified during the hearing is addressed. And it was approved with those conditions. The second request was from Jason Severa. They submitted an application requesting a variance of sections 1119.04E of the Painesville Unified Development Code for a detached accessory building. They were proposing to construct the detached garage with an overall height of 23 feet. This would require a variance of 7 feet with regards to the code. The motion to approve it was passed unanimously, so they will be building an accessory garage. And finally, they did hold an organizational meeting. The organizational meeting was held because there was a resignation, and the new vice chair for the Board of Zoning Appeals is Ryan Briggs, so he was elected vice chair for the Board of Zoning Appeals, and that's all for that meeting.
Planning Commission?
There was a planning commission on May 14th. There were 2 items on the agenda for 295 North State Street, a conditional use permit extension for Ola, Ohio. That was motioned and approved by the Planning Commission. And then at 475 Railroad Street, there was a design review application submitted for new accessory structures and accessory uses on the site. This is the site of the Railroad Museum, so they were asking for some additional accessory buildings that will be built over time, and improvement to a parking lot and an event center. The motion to approve their request was approved by the Planning Commission, and those are the only 2 items that were on the agenda for that meeting.
Does anyone have any questions for Doug on either of these meetings? We'll move on to legislation. Oh, I'm sorry, Lori. Your hands up.
No, thanks for recognizing the people. My question is, where exactly is the fenced-in area located for the judges? Is that in between the church and the courthouse?
Yes, that is in between the church and the court.
Good.
Yes,
And then will there be no access through that area, or will there be a sidewalk where you can get to the square?
there will be no access through that area. And part of the condition was that they will provide a sidewalk for the church to the side door, which will allow the church to access the side door from the front sidewalk. And they will be allowed to, the church will be allowed to park in the parking lot, and there is a gate going through to the side door as well for Sundays, Saturdays, and Sundays, so they will be able to use it for parking at that time. But it will not go the entire, people will not be able to walk through because it will be gated during the week.
Okay, and there is no other way to walk through Fury Street to the square, just to walk all the way around, correct?
You would have to walk through between the 2 courthouses to get to the square. From the parking lot to the, between the 2 courthouses rather than between the church and the courthouse.
So the old post office building? and the
Correct.
courthouse. Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Let's move into legislation. Ordinance number 1 is tabled, and I'm assuming we're going to keep that table. Ordinance number 2, first reading.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager of the city of Painesville to reaffirm the city of Painesville's commitment with the Lake County Board of Commissioners to participate in the Urban Entitlement Community Development Block Grant CDBG program for the utilization of funds made available by the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended and declaring an emergency.
This is a piece of legislation that council has approved in prior years, 2014 and 2017. Every 3 years, the Lake County Commissioners ask us to renew the cooperation agreement for the Urban County Entitlement Program. What this does is, by approving this, this allows the city of Painesville to participate in the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership programs with Lake County so that we can receive grant funding for various public improvements and public service programs in the city of Painesville. We are asking that second and third reading be waived and that it be passed tonight. However, if council chooses, this can go one more reading because we have to get it to Lake County Commissioners no later than July 17th, 2020.
Move to suspend. Second.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Denalo?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Denalo?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes. Ordinance 2 approved. Ordinance, resolution number 3, first reading.
Resolution authorizing the city of Painesville, Ohio to proceed with the demolition of an unsafe structure located at 518 Cedar Brook Drive in the city of Painesville, Lake County, Ohio, and to request the assistance and cooperation of the Lake County Land Utilization Corporation in effecting the same and declaring an emergency.
Each year, as council is aware, we submit potential demolitions to the Lake County Land Reutilization Corporation. Sorry about that. This year, we identified 2 properties. One property is currently under appeal. However, the property that we are requesting that council approve for demolition through the Lake County Land Reutilization Corp. is 518 Cedar Brook Drive. This is a property that property maintenance has inspected with the Lake County Building Department and determined it to be a unsafe property. And I don't know if you have a picture of it that Larry had sent. Sorry, we're bringing it up right now.
Did they receive this as well? I can't think I'll show it to you.
Right now, we're showing a picture of the property.
I'll forward you guys the email. Just- You guys should have received the slides that we're looking at.
There has been no water consumption to the residents since 2014 and no electric since 2018. The property has been vacant for a number of years and has fallen into disrepair, and we believe it has been abandoned by the property owner. The house is littered with garbage and trash and human waste. It's full of mold throughout the ceiling and the first floor. The ceilings have come down in several locations. The house, and the bathroom facilities are unusable. There's cracks in the foundation, and it does have property maintenance violations. So upon inspection, the property maintenance and the Lake County building official felt that this was a property that needed to be demolished. We are requesting that this go 3 readings because we do have to advertise it, so this would be the first reading.
Does anyone have any questions for Doug? Lori?
I'm sorry, most of what Doug said was, leaked out. I didn't hear it. I'm not sure how many of that she's, You're not hearing me well.
Okay,
You guys received the email of the slideshow? He just read what was on, he read what was on the slideshow.
Okay. When you say recommendations?
Everyone's unmuted right now, except, can you mute, go ahead.
the recommendation is that this go 3 readings because we do have to advertise it in the newspaper.
Are we good? Yeah. And we'll keep that on to next reading. Resolution number 4, first reading.
Did you have another one? Did you want to read it, please?
Can you have it done?
We're proposing a amendment to the legislation, but I'll let Valerie read it.
A resolution authorizing and directing the city manager to advertise for bids and enter into a contract including any and all ensuing change orders with the lowest and best bidder unless the project can be completed for less than $50,000 for the demolition of the city-owned building located at 459 Store Street and previously occupied by the Public Service Department and declaring an emergency.
We need to approve that.
The legislation before you would allow us to demolish the Store Street building, which was previously the Public Works or Public Service building at 459 Store Street. We initially believed that it would be in excess of $50,000, which requires council's approval. So that was if it comes in under the $50,000, then we can award the contract and get the building torn down. However, because the first bid that we received was in excess of that, we are requesting that council approve the legislation tonight, waive second and third readings, which will allow us to move forward with the demolition.
Anybody have any questions for Doug? Jim?
Move to suspend.
Jim and Lori have a question?
Jim, you're on mute. Did you have a question?
Jim?
Can't hear me.
I was just gonna say, I think the thing is, we had appropriated over $100,000, right?
We have.
Demolition of this building.
Yes, there was $111,650 budgeted, which was the initial cost that we thought would be for the abatement and demolition of the building.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions for Doug? Lori does. Lori?
I thought somewhere in my packet that you guys had thought maybe this was something that could
requested from the land bank that they cover half the cost of the abatement and demolition. Due to COVID-19, they have been unable to have a board meeting to approve the slate of properties that they will be demolishing this year. So we haven't received final approval as of yet. However, in talking with the executive director, he feels that if we are able to move forward with the demolition and their board approves it, then he would reimburse us for half the cost of the abatement and demolition.
So I just want to make, that we don't lose any ownership of that property if they contribute at all, don't lose any,
Good,
rights to use it, that we keep it.
good question, and no, this is this is like grant funding, like we've done with some of our other buildings. As council may remember, we worked with the Lake County Land Reutilization Corp to demolish the hotel building, and we still maintain ownership of that property.
Thank you.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Mr. Augustine? Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Donello?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Donello?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes. Resolution 4 approved. Resolution 5, first reading.
A resolution authorizing and directing the city manager to advertise for bids and enter into a contract, including any and all ensuing change orders with the lowest and best bidder for the construction of a carbon feed building and the purchase of equipment at the water treatment plant and declaring an emergency.
The city is required by the Ohio EPA to install a carbon feed system at the water treatment plant. The carbon feed system, or the purpose of the carbon feed system, is to combat harmful algae blooms, which many of you have probably heard about out in Lake Erie. This particular contract would include a new carbon feed system as well as constructing a new building adjacent to the water treatment plant that will house the equipment for the carbon feed system. Burgess and Nyepel is currently in the process of completing the design and bid specifications. In fact, we just found out today that they have done that, so we will be reviewing those. The estimated cost for engineering and construction of the building is $500,000. That money has been budgeted in the capital improvement budget and was approved by the city council. Staff is recommending that we approve this legislation as an emergency on first reading, since we are receiving the bid documents. That would allow us to bid it out now and complete the project by the deadline that the EPA has set for us of May of 2021.
Does anyone have any questions for Doug? Katie? Lauren, sorry, Lauren.
I guess I'm just wondering why we haven't seen this before, if this needing to be done on an emergency basis. Like, why didn't it take so long to get to us?
And we hadn't seen it before because I wasn't aware that we didn't request council's approval in the past. So as I'm taking over these projects, I realized that we had not passed legislation to move this project forward, or we would have brought it forward much sooner.
Thank you.
Move to suspend.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Donato?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Mrs. Donato?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes. Resolution 5 adopted. Resolution 6, first reading.
A resolution authorizing and directing the city manager to advertise for bids and enter into a contract, including any and all ensuing change orders with the lowest and best bidder for the replacement and installations of filter number 6 at the water treatment plant and declaring an emergency.
The city is requesting, or is required, the city is required by the Ohio EPA to repair water filter number 6 at the water treatment plant. This filter had been out of service for a number of years, and the EPA stated that we needed to bring it back in service. The inoperable filter is reducing plant capacity, and that's why we're required to replace filter number 6. Engineering is currently in the process of being completed, as well as the bid specifications. This is replacing a filter that was installed in 2004. Basically, what will be doing is we will be repairing a leak and installing a new filter in accordance with the original design. So, maintenance staff will also be performing some of the work to lower the cost. The estimated cost of engineering, equipment, and repair installation is $200,000. This amount was budgeted in the 2000 capital improvement budget, which was approved by the city council as well. And in this case, we're in the same situation with asking council to waive second and third readings and pass it as an emergency tonight so that we can bid it out and complete it before the end of the year.
Move to suspend.
Does anybody have, first, before we second that, does anybody have any questions for Doug? Okay, I have a suspension move on the table.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Donato?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Augustine? Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Donato?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes. Resolution 6 passed. We're going to move on to unfinished business. There is none. New business, we have council meetings. Katie, I believe this was your request to put this on new business, so I'll turn the chair over to you.
Yes, so I'm asking, I requested that this be put on new business so that council can have a discussion as a group about what expectations are, whether or not this is something we should be considering, or is this something we should move, until later, just so we can have an idea. I know in the latest, information we've received from the city, and Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, we have reopened City Hall
is staggered staff, and under the governor's orders, if they have the ability to work at home and are fully functioning.
Sorry, you're muted. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay.
Hi.
I saw it, yes, we're staggering staff.
Yes, we are staggering staff, and under the governor's orders, that if they have the ability to work at home, they can remain home and work at home should they have, childcare needs and things of that nature. But it's only if they have the ability to fully function in their job at home.
Okay, and then the other aspect that we have to consider is the number of people allowed to congregate. I believe that the governor still has that set at 10.
That is,
And so with
that's
7
correct.
council members, our clerk, our city manager, and our lawyer were there, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So I guess I just wanted to have an open conversation with everybody. You know, at what point do we think, for me, I think when the governor's ruling about the 10 people changes is when we can actually start discussing this. But that's my opinion, and I'd love to hear what everybody else says.
Jim? Jim?
Am I up?
You are? Yes.
Okay, I guess my feeling is this, until they come up with a vaccine, they are still promoting social distancing and wearing a mask when you're out in the public. And I do not think that courtroom 1 has the square footage that would, even if they increase it, okay, now you can have 25 people, 50 people, there's no way you should file for 25 or 50 people in courtroom 1. So I guess my feeling would be, while the coronavirus is still active, alive, and kicking, that we look at, maybe Harvey High School in terms of the auditorium, where, I know myself, I would feel more comfortable if we were spread out at least 6 feet across the stage, and from one another. And then also that provides a tremendous amount of space out in the auditorium for people that would like to come and speak. That's all I got.
Hillary, I have a question. Once the governor lifts all of his restrictions and so on and so forth, is he also going to say, okay, you can no longer do online council meetings? I mean, is this going to go away, do you think?
I think online council meetings, it's going to be, I think what we can do online is going to be restricted at some point, yes.
So it might be restricted, so it might be.
At some point, that's just
Right.
I don't think he's gonna allow us to go, until there's a vaccine. I don't think that's gonna be stretched that long, but I can't speak, I don't fully know, but.
Well, I tend to agree with Katie and that we're
not getting,
Yeah.
we're not getting the greatest feedback from the public as to the way that we're handling that this is happening, that, they're not 100% behind the way that they are getting the council meetings. The sound isn't as great as they want it to be. They can't hear you guys as best as in person.
Kathleen, how many do we have on tonight?
10.
10.
The feedback that the community gives based on the council meeting, we get, a lot of viewers and stuff, but their number one feedback is that they can't hear you guys or they can't see you guys, and that's just their number one complaint. And I don't know how you feel about that.
I guess my question that would be, would those 10 people have been here tonight if they could have been? Or last week we had 150, would those 150 have been here? I've been in council for 5 years, and when we have events that really jar the community, we're packed, but for the most part, we generally have more council people and staff than we do residents, because they have the ability to watch it on our website. So, like I said, I'm leaning towards Katie.
And I mean, we are doing the best we can with the circumstances and, what we have in front of us. The court is getting wireless mics, and they're getting they're upgrading our sound system. So they are doing what they can. It's not because of us that they're doing that, but it's gonna be given to us, and we're gonna be able to use it, and it's gonna help us. But
Lauren, do you have a comment?
I do, I just wanted to share that, I guess I'm not comfortable with, taking our terms to other facilities, especially school, where kids have to go to be educated, and again, don't know how long this is going on for. I don't disagree with Jim as far as maybe looking to have more space so that we can spread out better. I think he's correct in our need for that. But I would ask that we see what we have within the city that could accommodate that belongs to a building that belongs to us. Again, I just don't feel comfortable having the community go into the schools and taking our meetings in that setting.
Katie?
Katie?
So I was gonna actually say something along the lines of what Lori said. Is there a way for, because I know in the current space that we meet in, which is where you guys are right now, I know that the two at the end of the table and then spacing the tables out works, but it only works for, I believe, 8 at the most. But is there a way for us to maybe meet in separate locations and have the appropriate audio necessary to be able to do that? So that we all have access to maybe microphones in 2 separate rooms, or what that looks like, so that we can improve the quality without sacrificing the safety.
You mean like some of us be in courtroom 1 and some of us be in courtroom 2?
Yeah, is that possible?
I mean, if we're doing that, we might as well be all in one room and some of us sitting in pews and some of us not.
The other thought could be wonder if commissioners would let us use their room. 'Cause that's a big room, and that's a public building already, and there's lots of room over there.
There it is, and yeah, there's a lot of room there. However, the seats aren't 6 feet apart. Along their chamber, I thought about that after we discussed it the last time. It's a beautiful room. But what Katie said, if we did do 4 tables like this, and then, I mean, I could easily sit in a pew with a microphone, and Mr. Gurley is already sitting in a pew. I mean, I don't necessarily need to be on screen as long as the city manager is on a screen. That's all that really matters. I could be over the city manager's shoulder and,
And the other thing to consider is we only have 3 more meetings during the summer.
Right, so we have one more meeting this month, which, as a reminder, I won't be at. we do, if you guys continue to not have residents here, and you want to continue doing this, I would suggest allowing me to go out and get bids from companies that can set up a platform for us and get quotes to let us go live, not from Kathleen's phone.
Okay,
Okay,
so that's my question then becomes,
and the quality would be better.
so if the issue is, like Christina Tom, who are there today, not being able to be heard well and not being able
It's,
to causing issues,
it's them
then
not being.
why don't we stop doing the in-person piece and everybody be electronically so that
They're not the issue, they're not the issue, it's you guys are the issue. They can't hear you guys well, they can hear them just fine, they can hear me just fine, it's hearing you guys that's the issue.
Okay. Alright.
Because they're hearing you guys through my computer.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and how are they hearing Tom and Christine? Through
Through the microphones and through their mouths, yeah. Like,
Okay.
they're hearing them through their microphones,
Well, her phone's also picking up
your
our
voice.
sound.
Right, yeah.
Phone is also.
So I guess I'm just thinking, if we were all on one platform, whether it's in person or this, then that gets rid of that need for multiple options for audio.
And I think that's what Val's saying, if we want to go that route, we need different software, and she needs to do a bid to see, this is the platform that we would use. But I'm guessing,
If you guys come back and we're gonna be in person, then it would be worth our while to, even if we do come back in person and we do have residents here and people like being able to watch the council meetings live, and we can put a link on and we can literally broadcast it live from our website and say, here we have a council meeting going on right now, you can watch it live from our website, or click this link, our council meeting is going on right now. There's a company that can come and set it up for us, and they can, there's companies that do that, and they can broadcast it live, for us, and not use Kathleen's cell phone and broadcast it live on Facebook Live.
Jim,
So, okay, one more thing.
Okay.
If we can just if it's that easy and we just need to go for bids, I think we just need to go for bids. This would be our new reality moving forward. I don't know if everybody else.
Jim?
I'm not entertaining one for bids, but, I guess the other thing too is, we're very clear what it is that we're going out to bid for, and, to get an idea there. If people are having a hard time hearing us through Val's computer, there should be a fairly simple fix in terms of giving her an external speaker. On another note, in terms of germs
in Parks and Rec, and the schools are resistant to letting, they're cleaned up, they're clean, they're disinfected, they are ready and waiting for the possibility for schools to start. And they would not let the city, now granted, there was a bunch of kids, I get it, but they wanted to keep their schools locked down so that they didn't have to continually clean it back up. So that might be something that we, even if we did want to look at going towards the schools, Monica or Doug would have to talk with, Dr. Everhard, just try to get, to make sure that we could use that and that wouldn't put an undue burden on their cleanliness. But I do know that they would not let us into the schools at all this summer.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of the schools either. I just think it's not a good idea with the kids in there. And then you're gonna get the public in there, and it's just.
Hold on, can I say something?
Yes.
Jim, to your point, I know that at the court, they make the people that are waiting to get into court, they make them stand outside the doors, and then they will call them inside when it's their turn for their case. So I know that you said, we wouldn't want to have 25 to 50 people in this room. I'm sure that if, we did decide to open this particular room back open, but we had to limit it to, 5 people in the audience or, 4 people in the audience or what have you, then, we would have to have someone at the door saying, I'm sorry, we can only have 4 or 5 people sitting in the audience, and I think that would maybe have to be what it is what it is. If it did come to that, but that is what the court does. They only let, so many people sitting in here at a time.
Lori, you have a comment?
I do, thank you. I guess, I think what our direction is that we're going to look into equipment and we're going to look into larger space. And does everybody agree with that? And we have a couple months to make some decisions.
Good summary, that's what I was going to say.
She's muted. We're muted.
That's a good summary.
She said that's a good summary.
I agree.
And Katie's nodding, Lori, okay, so we will give direction to Val to do just that, right?
Where would you like me to look at larger facilities? If we're not saying
Let's probably take it off, we'll take that off when we can talk about it.
Okay. And Jim,
Jim, did you have one more thing you want to say? Okay. All right, Katie, is that sufficient for you? Are you happy with this as well?
Yeah,
Okay, great, thank you. Administrative reports, Law Director,
I have nothing at this time.
City Manager,
I have 2 items. I emailed each of you a memo from City Manager Monica Ireland regarding a appointment and a reclassification. One is the water superintendent appointment, and City Manager Ireland states that I'm pleased to advise the City Council that I have chosen Warren McMonigal to fill the position of water superintendent. Mr. McGonigal has over 20 years of public sector experience in water treatment. He also holds a Class 4 water supply license as issued by the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency. He has extensive experience with a solid background for this position. I therefore submit for your concurrence Warren McGonigal for the position of water and superintendent as required by Article 2, Section 3 of the City of Painesville Charter. And we are requesting confirmation for appointment of a department head. Again, we have been without a Class 4 water supply or water superintendent for quite a while now, and we need to have one appointed in the near future to satisfy EPA requirements.
Valerie, would that be like a motion for confirmation?
Sure.
I'll make a motion. Does anybody have questions? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the confirmation.
Katie, second.
Roll call?
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. Donato,
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Augustine,
Yes.
Mr. Fodor,
Yes.
Mrs. Shute.
Yes. Confirmed.
And the second item is a reclassification for our Human Resource Director. City Manager Ireland had talked with council about reclassifying Kristen Young as the Director of Human Resources. She is currently the Human Resources Manager, I believe, and this would be a reclass to make her the Director of Human Resources. There will be some additional modifications made if this is approved, where the finance director will move back to just the finance director, so we will have to bring legislation to the city council, and his position will just be finance director instead of finance director, HR manager, or HR director. Chris has been employed with the city HR department for over 17 years and has a solid background in this position, and I can certainly attest to that, having asked her questions a number of times. We therefore submit for your concurrence Kristen Young's reclass to the position of Director of Human Resources as required by Article 2, Section 3 of the City of Painesville Charter. We respectfully request the City Council's confirmation for this reclass.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the reclassification. Second.
Mrs. Donato,
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Augustine,
Yes.
Mr. Fodor,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. Shute.
Yes. Confirmation passed.
The last thing I have, as council knows, we had a peaceable protest in the square today. I'd like to call on Police Chief Dan Waterman to give a brief update, and I will call him up here so he can speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Doug and I social distanced the entire thing you just watched there. We just want you to know that. As we know today, we did have a protest. Not one single person was arrested, not one single person was hurt. We had approximately 150 people during the peak. Truly today, it was a credit to our residents and the way they acted. Councilwoman Jenkins had a front row seat. She saw this firsthand. Our residents were wonderful. It was a credit to the officers. The way they acted it makes it very easy for myself and for you as council to be very proud of them, the way they acted today. In our mind, at the police department, one of the things we believe in is that leadership is all about restraint, and it's about letting people have voice, and that is the way you gain credibility, and we saw that today. The crowd was very appreciative of us. We let them have their voice just as we have in the past when there were Hispanic rallies or other rallies in the park. We didn't have violence, we didn't have turbulence. After about 3.5 hours of steady protest, they did dissipate and left without leaving any messes, without leaving any damage or causing any problems whatsoever. So very successful today, allowing people to have their voice. And again, I think the way that everyone acted, the council will be very proud of what happened today in the park.
Does anyone have any questions for Chief Warren? Katie?
So I just wanted to echo what Chief said today and commend our administration as well as our police department for putting all of this together in such short notice. I believe, Dan, you found out at 7 o'clock this morning that this was a buzz. So, I I loved the fact, things that I thought Painesville did remarkably. Officers wearing plain, simple uniforms. They were not riot gear. They were not, dressed to the hilt or locked and loaded or whatever you want to say. They were spaced out throughout the square so that it did not feel like there was a huge police presence. I know that there was a huge police presence today. And so the fact that many of the people who attended today had no idea that that was the case just speaks volumes to the amount of organization that went into doing this process. So I just, and I also want to take a second. So I don't know if everybody knows, but the majority of the people that were there doing the protesting were young adults in our community. So high school students, recent high school graduates, predominantly Harvey High School students. And the behaviors that I saw today just renewed my hope in humanity. Seeing kids walk over to BP and come back with cases of water that they distributed to not only the protesters, but also the people who were supervising the protesters. There were a lot of parents over there who could watch over their kids. The fact that when they switched locations, the young lady who was really kind of leading the charge said, "Stop, pick up your garbage, we're gonna go over here." The fact that they were just so conscientious about what they were doing, that's the way to have your voice heard, and I was just full of pride today.
Thank you for being there.
Thank you, Chief. Oh, Jim I'm sorry, Jim. I looked and it was gone. You're muted?
You're muted.
Muted?
Jim, you're muted.
Yes, unmute, Jim.
There we go.
There we go.
I think leadership is a big key in that. I know that several people went for release or whatever you want to call it, and it came across the emotion and feeling and the pride in your staff and the community, and it does make a difference. So if you convey that to your fellow officers or patrolmen, that this isn't a one-shot deal. This is that day-to-day interaction where you're building trust and you're developing a relationship with the community. And I think you, as the chief, really exemplify that, and it shows in the officers and the patrolmen. So, good job, keep it up, and let's keep on moving forward.
Thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate council's support.
Thank you. For the council?
The next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, June 15th at 7:30. Tentative opening date for farmers market is June 18th. Tentative opening date for the card cruise is June 19th. And Painesville Summer Camp has a potential start date of July 6th.
Closing comments? Let's start with Katie.
You're starting with me because I have a lot of rambling to do. So I've already said my piece about today's rally. Again, great work by the administration, great work by chief, great work by our police officers and all the surrounding safety services in neighboring cities. So I distributed to council a packet of legislation that was passed in Franklin County by the county commissioners, news stories related to and releases related to legislation that the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus as well as Cleveland City are considering regarding declaring racism a public health crisis. I, prior to this meeting, found out that the Cleveland Health and Human Services Committee actually reviewed the legislation for the city of Cleveland this morning, and they did pass it and move it forward to council, so it will be read for the first time on Wednesday. And I would love for this to be some legislation that we put on the table in front of us in Painesville City. So I realize this is closing comments. I would have put this on new business had I seen it last week. But I guess I was hoping that council would give us the opportunity to work with administration to possibly bring forth legislation at the next meeting.
Lori, your closing comments?
Lori?
Thanks. Katie, have you had a chance to look at the information you sent, and I'm in favor of the resolution or legislation moving forward, getting something put together? I also would like to welcome our new water superintendent to the table, and I also want to tell the staff that I'm glad, welcome back to work, staff. I know a lot has been going on. I still believe that this situation is very stressful. A lot of changes and a lot of demands are made of everybody. And it's really, we are a community, and communities are close, and like to treat one another with more hugs and things of that nature. So I know that we're missing that and we're missing each other. Kudos to the organized event today and to our young people as well as their parents for taking the time to be with them and supervising. Also, obviously, our officers and all of the commissioners who put things together for a community-wide and to address the issue peacefully and with respect and regards to the cause. And that is all I have.
Jim? Jim? Yes, Jim.
Yeah, I was responding to the meeting, but a couple things. First off, I'm not against the community, but I think one, I did not get a chance to really read it. I saw what it was, but I'd like to read it. And two, I'd like Joe Burley to take a look at it to make sure that it goes along with the charter and things like that. We get a legal opinion that it coincides with what we're doing. I guess that's it for me.
Mr. Gurley?
Nick?
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 Yes, I also was able to review quickly Katie's email and did not read every piece and part of it, but I do agree with the idea of putting something together to bring to council. I also agree with Jim in the fact that we should have legal look at it and make sure that, we're all on the same page and it agrees with our charter. Maybe even finance, I'm not quite sure. I know the last bullet in there said that, putting that in written would make us have to financially support everything we have to do there. So I would just like to know what that entails at this time. And then, but yeah, that's a good idea. And I also just want to echo some of the sounds that we've heard. Congratulations to our police chief and our police staff and all the neighboring cities that came to our aid as everybody gathered today. Thank you, administration and Valerie, for continuing to put this on for us. And I want to thank Katie for being my eye in the sky today, so I could watch the protesting firsthand. So that's it. Thank you.
Tom?
Well, I think pretty much everything's been said. I agree with Katie. I have not read the email through either, but I think it's a great idea that Nick brought up about having Joe look it over. And I want to thank our residents and our police for a peaceful end to what happened today with everything going on, the protests on the square. It was, I walked by it for a little bit today. I didn't go there just because I was kind of busy doing other things, but I want to thank them all for a great job. So thank you very much. That's it.
I'd like to give a shout Joe Saverna, the director of the DPO. She also filmed it, which is how I watched it, and she did a great job, so thanks, Joy, great job. I also want to congratulate all the seniors. I keep seeing all the banners and all the yard signs, so congratulations to all our graduating seniors this year from all the schools, all the local schools, especially Harvey. I wondered, Katie, would you like to see this on new business once people's reviewed it? Or I think we should, I'm not sure we're ready to bring it back as legislation, but maybe we have it on new business next week so that everybody's reviewed it and Joe's looked at it and we can talk about it and then bring it up? What do you think?
So what I'm proposing, I'm sorry, what I was actually proposing is, so right now, all we have is the Franklin County legislation, and as Nick said, that does have a mechanisms that do not include. I reached out to the chairperson of the Legislative Black Caucus, as well as the chairperson for the Defense Health and Human Services Committee, and requested draft language for the ones that they are doing. So the Franklin County has a lot less financial pieces to it. It looks like the Ohio Legislative Black Coalition has more financial pieces to it. So what I was hoping to do was sit down with Doug and kind of pick apart pieces to create a legislation that Joe could review for the legality. Because right now the legislation for us doesn't necessarily exist. So I guess it's just, can I start working with Doug to see if we can create something?
I think we had agreement from everyone that that's a good idea. I guess my question is, I'd rather see it in a new business discussion. Am I on now? Oh, I'd rather see it in a new business discussion rather than plop it in as legislation right off the bat, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, if that's what council feels is appropriate, yeah, absolutely. I would just love to partner with you on that.
And just to let you know, I believe I received all 3 versions just recently, right before the meeting. So I will forward those to you as well.
So to summarize, Katie and Doug are going to get together and we're going to put it on new business for the next meeting.
For discussion.
For discussion, for legislation.
Perfect.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose the same sign? We adjourn.